While that's going on, Jeremy has penned his letter to Superman asking him to rid the world of nuclear weapons and sent it to Lois at the Daily Planet. Clark reads the letter aloud and Lacey decides there's a story in this, so they hold a freaking press conference with the kid. Talk about a slow news day. The headline in the next day's paper reads, "Superman says drop dead to kid," which is of course complete and total bullshit. At least in the theatrical cut. However, there is a deleted scene where Superman actually visits Jeremy's classroom and answers him in person. While he of course doesn't tell him to drop dead, he does politely refuse Jeremy's request as he vowed never to interfere with human history. Even though that's never stopped him before. So the headline is definitely sensationalist, but not entirely inaccurate. Clark is rather upset by the headline, so he flies off to the Fortress of Solitude to consult a couple of nameless Kryptonian elders because they couldn't afford Marlon Brando.
If you teach the earth to put its fate in any one man, even yourself, you're teaching them to be betrayed.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
That evening, Lois stops by to accompany Clark to a press awards dinner, but before they leave, Clark asks Lois if they can talk for a minute on the balcony.
Clark, things aren't that bad! Clark, stop! Clark!
Clark, save me from this horrible blue screen effect! On the way down, Superman reveals his identity and they go for a quick flight around the country. If this scene looks familiar, that's because you've seen the first Superman movie where they did the exact same thing. Less than 30 minutes in, and they're already recycling ideas. And that's not all. After the flight is over, Superman hits Lois with the mind wipe kiss from Superman 2. If you're going to copy the previous films, at least copy the good parts. The mind wipe kiss was stupid then and it's stupid now. And then they head off to the press awards dinner, and this pointless scene is never mentioned again. Superman 4: The Quest for Padding! After that nonsense, Superman pays Jeremy a surprise visit and walks with him to a building that looks almost, but not quite, entirely unlike the United Nations headquarters. When they arrive, Jeremy promptly exits stage left as that character's purpose has been fulfilled. And Superman addresses the delegates.
I can't stand idly by and watch us stumble into the madness of possible nuclear destruction. Effective immediately, I'm going to rid our planet of all nuclear weapons.
And Superman's decision is met with thunderous applause from all of the delegates, including those from nations with nuclear arsenals who, just a few days ago, announced they had no choice but to continue the nuclear arms race. But Superman makes a 60-second speech and suddenly they're all willing to disarm? Just like that? Granted, he is Superman, and there's probably not a whole lot they can do to stop him, but still, not one word of protest? Not one nation questioning what gives Superman the right to do this? Everyone's ready to jump on board and welcome our new Kryptonian overlord? Okay, whatever. So everyone launches their nukes into space, and Superman collects them all and flings them into the sun. Meanwhile, Lex Luther meets with a few black market arms dealers who plan to secretly rearm the superpowers of the world with nuclear warheads. Oh gee, who could have seen that coming? Lex has offered to help them by getting rid of Superman, and reveals his dastardly plan.
You know what the sun is? It's nothing more than a huge nuclear bomb.
I'm no astronomer, but I'm pretty sure the sun is just a little bit more complicated than that. Also, the word is still nuclear. Lex then presents this unscrupulous trio with some genetic goo he somehow concocted off screen from Superman's hair, and says firing this goo into the sun will create the ultimate adversary for the Man of Steel. If you're wondering how throwing some DNA into the sun can create life, the movie does dick all to explain how this works, so don't expect any answers from me.
If you'll help me put this on one of your missiles, I promise you, Superman will have the biggest surprise of his life. I'll introduce him to his first nightmare, a nuclear man.
Oh god damn it, the word is nuclear! N-U-C-L-E-A-R! There's nothing between the C and the L. It's 2 syllables, that's it! New-clear!
You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong.
Lex and Lenny head to the lab where they prepare the genetic material. They also add a tiny bit of cloth, which Lex claims will be woven into a uniform large enough to fit a full-grown man by the onboard computer. Because science is magic! They also add what appears to be a bit of ash, but don't explain what it is or why they need it. And if you listen carefully to the dialogue, Lex refers to the genetic goo as new.
The new genetic material.
So does that mean there's old genetic material? Did we miss a scene? Well, yes, we actually missed quite a bit, because like the scene with Superman in the classroom, this was cut from the theatrical version of the film. Let's back up a bit. After Lacey Warfield arrived at the Daily Planet, she almost immediately started crushing on Clark. Just go with it. She suggested they work on a project together for the paper covering Metropolis nightlife, and start that night with the grand opening of the Metro Club. In the theatrical cut, this went absolutely nowhere. But in the original cut, they did actually visit the Metro Club in a scene which I'm sure featured plenty of hilarious hijinks. But if footage of it still exists, it's not on the Blu-ray special features. Meanwhile, in Lex's lab, he and Lenny subjected the genetic material from Superman's hair to a nuclear reaction which somehow mutated it into the first Nuclear Man, which somewhat resembled the comic book character Bizarro. This Nuclear Man got into a brawl with Superman outside the Metro Club in a rather silly scene with plenty of blatant product placement. Our hero ultimately destroyed his bizarre foe, leaving only a small pile of ash. Lex went back to the drawing board and realized he needed a stronger nuclear reaction. So he cooked up some new genetic material, added a bit of the old from the ashes, now you know where that came from, and placed it in a missile to be launched into the sun. This brings us back to the movie proper, where Lex's black market buddies arrange for a missile to be launched into space. And here's where they make Lex look like a fucking idiot. Not only does he order them to ignore the weather delay and launch anyway, possibly wasting all the hard work he put into his plan, but he presses the launch button while they're still getting the missile into position, which results in it narrowly missing the bunker and taking him out. If this is the greatest criminal mind of our time, then I'd hate to see what the worst is. Despite his worst efforts, the missile does make it to space, Superman tosses it into the sun, and Nuclear Man version 2 is born. Quite literally. And boy are those fingernails overdue for a trimming. He flies down to Lex's hideout to... the hell? Why is Lex dancing with a woman in Georgian dress? Was there a deleted scene that explained this too? Oh god, is he LARPing? Well, anyway, Lex is introduced to his creation.
Welcome home, Nuclear Man.
About time you learned how to pronounce nuclear.
You are nothing. I am the father now.
You have my voice.
No, you have my voice.
Congratulations, Lex. You just gave birth to a playground bully. But while Nuclear Man does look rather imposing, he apparently gets his power from the sun. So if he steps into the shade... yeah, bit of a design flaw there, Lex. Then again, there are several scenes where he's not in direct sunlight and yet he's just fine, so maybe his battery backup just needed a charge? Nuclear Man makes it quite clear that he wants to destroy Superman immediately, but that will have to wait, because we have some wacky hijinks to get to! Mr. Warfield has tasked Lois with interviewing Superman, yet another idea they recycled from the first movie.
We're not going to believe this list of questions Mr. Warfield gave me to ask Superman. Look.
Are you or are you not part of a plot to weaken our national defense?
And the next question is boxers or briefs. Isn't the answer kind of obvious? Lacey suggested Lois do the interview at her apartment, and she invited Clark to turn it into a double date, which means he has to keep ducking in and out of the apartment and changing clothes so he can be both Clark Kent and Superman in the same place at the same time. This movie has officially turned into a Saturday morning cartoon. During this hilarious sequence, and by hilarious I mean not, Lex contacts Superman using a radio frequency only he can hear, and threatens to blow up a chunk of the Empire State Building. Or Metropolis State Building, or whatever they're calling it. Sure enough, it was only a bluff to get Superman to his hideout. Wait, his hideout is in the Empire State Building? How exactly did he pull that off? Well, anyway, he finally introduces the Man of Steel.
The Dude of Steel.
Oh, sorry. The Dude of Steel. God, that character is annoying. To his new nemesis. What the hell was that? Did they get the DNA from Superman or a grizzly bear? Superman 4, The Quest for Power!
Destroy Superman. First, I have fun.
Superman and Nuclear Man proceed to have an incredibly boring and needlessly drawn-out fight. Hell, most of it isn't even a fight. They fly into space, Superman punches him once, and Nuclear Man immediately leaves and goes to attack the Great Wall of China for seemingly no other reason than because he can. He really is a playground bully. He then flies off, and Superman comes in to undo the damage with his repair vision? I know he has heat vision and X-ray vision, but repair vision? That one's new. This formula repeats itself for the next few minutes. They return to space for a cheap-looking 10-second fight, Nuclear Man runs off to erupt an Italian volcano, and Superman plugs the hole. They have another short and shitty fight in space, Nuclear Man runs off to destroy the Statue of Liberty, Superman saves it because they'll need it for Ghostbusters 2 in a couple of years. And yes, it's somehow daylight in China, Italy, and New York at the same time. This fight actually visited more locations in the original cut, and I for one am glad they trimmed it down. While Superman is returning the statue to its rightful location, Nuclear Man sneaks up from behind and scratches him with his solar-powered press-on nails of doom. Superman is able to return the statue in one piece, but is severely weakened by the scratch. Nuclear Man then kicks a field goal, and somehow his cape flies off, even though it's clearly attached to him while he's flying away. The cape is found by Sir not appearing in this film and delivered to the Daily Planet, which leads many people to assume Superman is dead. Of course he's not, but he's definitely very ill and even appears to be aging rapidly. But he pulls out the glowing green Deus Ex Machina he found at the beginning of the film, and I think it somehow heals him, although it never actually shows any healing process. I'm sure this will come as a shock, but the movie doesn't do a very good job of explaining exactly what the crystal does, so I freely admit I'm guessing here.